Welcome back to the Second and Short podcast, where the entire playbook is open. I'm Josiah.
I'm Christian.
I'm Hayden.
I'm Cooper.
Once again, for those of you who like to listen to audio only, the Spotify link will be in the description.
So, Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. They repeated. Are they going to three-peat?
Depends if they keep Chris Jones and Snead. They have to keep at least Chris Jones. Yeah. They could draft another corner, but
I think Snead's more important than Jones is.
Really? Do you really trust their interior? They don't really have another stud guy there.
No, I don't. They need help no matter what. But L'Jarius Snead still has plenty of years left. Chris Jones might have two more solid, elite.
I think
years.
It's easier to replace a corner than D tackle.
So here's my question about corner. Do you think that Snead's better than Ward? Because they let Ward walk.
Kind of like this.
And
He
so
will be.
I think that Ward might be better than Snead, and they let him walk. So
I
why
think
wouldn't
they're
they
equal.
let Snead walk?
I would say equals.
And I think Snead has more years on him.
I think Snead's a higher ceiling, but
Ward was first team All Pro this year, wasn't he? Or second?
Ward was nuts.
He was the first or second team All Pro.
Ward was really good this year.
Yeah.
McDuffie was first team. I think Snead might have been a Pro Bowler or second team I'm not
Snead
sure.
had a good year.
But I mean, we're going to talk about the franchise tag later. We really just jumped headfirst in. But who's more likely to receive the tag? Chris Jones or L'Jarius Snead?
Snead. Jones doesn't want
I think.
Jones doesn't want another tag, and Jones is.
Well, it doesn't matter what he wants. That's the beauty of the franchise tag.
He's going to sit out for sure.
That Jones tag is going to be expensive.
He almost sat out this year until they signed him. He's going to sit out for sure if they don't sign him.
That was this year where he missed a couple games?
He missed
one.
And that's when they bid into it because they needed him that game.
Yeah, I mean, a pass rusher's franchise tag is going to be ridiculously more expensive than a corner. So, I would say you tag Snead, hit him with the franchise tag, and then, I don't know, try to make something work.
Because I don't see Snead at least being all right, I'll play off of it. I don't think Snead's really voiced his opinion with, obviously he wants paid, but he hasn't said, I'm sitting out if he gets...
Whoever, whether it's both of them or just one of them, whoever hits free agency is going to be overpaid. Both are obviously great players, but this happens all the time. It's one of the reasons why it's so hard to even repeat, because teams are going to want to break apart the Super Bowl winning team, especially when you have two guys who have been a part of a dynasty. But do you guys want to talk about the Super Bowl? A lot of stuff happened. What were your main takeaways? Josie, you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. We've said this all year. We obviously had some opinions on the offense being not as good as the defense, and that seemed to be somewhat true pretty much all year. I mentioned this on a couple podcasts in a row now. Mahomes had the worst year of his career statistically, and they won the Super Bowl. What else are you going to do? As a team that's playing the Chiefs, it's what else can you do? They came into the playoffs as the 3 seed. Was it the 2 seed?
They were 3.
I think they were 3. Yeah, because Buffalo was the 2 seed. And then they just ran through the playoffs. I saw something that said DVOA. It's defensive variable. Basically, it says that the difficulty of the team that you're playing. The Chiefs, in the history of when they were measuring that, they played the 4 toughest teams that anybody's ever played in order to win the Super Bowl.
That sounds like a kind of made-up stat that they would use for Myles Garrett winning Defensive Player of the Year.
I saw that one too. I mean, I definitely agree with it because they had to go through the Dolphins, they played the Bills, and then they played the Ravens, and then the 49ers.
Yeah,
they took down both the number 1 seeds and the 2 seed.
That's the point that I was getting. I don't care about the DVOA variable thing, but they played 4 really good teams and they beat them all. It's Mahomes. What else do you do?
And they're only going to get better. I think the defense is at the point now where they can start to rebuild the offense and really put some elite pieces
they have
around
at least
Mahomes.
one for sure receiver, which is Rashee Rice.
Yeah, and then
Rashee Rice.
And they have free agency coming up.
They have Rice and Kelsey. There's a good wide receiver class. And then also, I wouldn't rule out them drafting a guy in the first round. That's the thing. They tore down the offense so they could build up a defense around Mahomes. But guess what? They won a Super Bowl even with that torn down offense. They won 2 of them.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you can bring back another elite wide receiver, whether it's developing one through the draft or signing one. I don't no, let's play Madden franchise mode here. Trade for Tyreek Hill back.
Would you rather
I think they're
see
shooting
them,
higher than Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good pick, though.
Would you rather see them draft one or get one in free agency?
I'd rather see them draft because you got to think. I feel like as their GM standpoint, want to keep Jones and Snead, you have to go to the draft for receiver more than.
I don't
Sign
think
a
it's.
guy.
I don't even know if it's on their radar keeping both of them. I just don't think that's feasible.
Oh, I think one of them's leaving for sure. I think it's Jones more. I think Jones, like, he's got his rings and he's fine with going to get paid and going to someone
Tony's
else.
probably gone.
Oh, Tony's leaving for sure.
Yeah.
He
He's out of-
got cut when they put him on the injury report. Like that was them being nice to him and giving him whatever.
Just
but like
giving him another
been
ring.
gone.
He just got
Like,
another ring. That's all.
Well, he would have
Really
got it
nice.
anyway, even if they cut him.
We
I
got
think if you play like
Tony,
50% of the games, you still get a ring from the team.
maybe MVS.
It's
He has 1 year
terrible.
left on the deal. To answer your question, I would say draft with the caveat that Mahomes works with like the top 20 receivers in the class and comes back and tells them who he wants. And I think Mahomes is willing to do that this offseason. He's very aware of his legacy, very aware that they have the chance to do something that's never been done before. I think you say, all right, Patrick, we're going to go get a wide receiver. Go tell us who you like.
And if he says trade up, they'll definitely try and trade up too.
Maybe.
I think they would trade up.
I think the Steelers in past years have shown that you can get really quality wide receivers in the second round. And I'm not saying that they can draft like the Steelers can, but like you can get a really good wide receiver at pick 32. Like I don't see them trading up. And I mean, maybe even like I've mentioned this before here, like maybe they go out and get Jatavian Sanders if he falls to 32. Not saying he will, but like, you know, there's three really receivers coming out of Texas, right? I think they all declared for the draft.
Iron Mitchell,
Xavier Worthy and
but Worthy's hurt.
Jatavian
Worthy like
Sanders.
broke his leg or something, right?
I'm not sure.
Worthy's out. And then,
Yeah, but like there's, I mean, if you can get a guy who falls to 32, like
I think you're thinking of Washington's guys because Polk,
Washington,
Jones,
they
and,
both have
they-
a lot
yeah,
of
they
weapons.
both
but-
have, yeah.
they all went to the
for
draft.
sure, yeah. But
So I have an opinion about it. I can see both sides, so I'll play devil's advocate. But if you're in Kyle Shanahan's position, do you take the ball first in that overtime?
I don't.
And that's the popular sentiment. That's
I've
why
just
he's getting
always just, like-
slaughtered in the media right
See,
now.
I get what he was trying to do too, but also I feel like you have to game plan longer for your offensive plays, especially for how it's been going for them in the second half, because I think they got out-coached big time. I think Spagnolia had a great plan after this first half, and then I think Andy Reid did. I think you have to pull out like all your great plays and talk it over and like make sure like every player knows what they're doing and everything.
What does that have to do though with deciding to receive her kick?
So they get the ball. So they have the ball second. So Chiefs get the ball first. So they have time to talk that all over. So they can at least score.
Yeah, but do you think they really have that much time to talk it over? Or I feel like what they were going to run was what they're going
the
to
Chiefs
run.
had what they wanted to run. The Chiefs took like 8 minutes for their draft to like score. They took like the whole half to score.
Yeah,
the
each
whole
team had
quarter.
like a 7.5 minute drive.
I just think that they would have had better plan.
yeah, no, I with the new overtime rules, I'm not sure it matters. With the new playoff overtime rules, I'm not sure it matters whether you take the ball first or not. What I think matters is, and this is where I think Kyle Shanahan fell short in that area as the coach, is like if you take the ball first, you have to be aggressive. He should have gone for it on 4th and 4. If he knew that he took the ball first and he knew that the Chiefs, with the best quarterback in the league right now, and you don't have the best quarterback in the league, you have a really good roster, but you don't, you have to go for it on that 4th and 4. Like, I get the field goal and like you trusting your defense, but like, in that situation, you have to make your decisions as a coach based on the decision that you made in the coin flip, which was, hey, I want the ball first, so you have to be aggressive.
And also
You
went
have to
for it
be
before that too.
the tone setter, and you have to score a touchdown. You cannot settle for a field goal there.
Especially giving Mahomes 4 downs to go down the field.
And
I
their
mean,
defense just looked
But
gassed.
imagine if they wouldn't have got it. Then you're giving Mahomes a chance to, all he has to do is
Just
go
a
get a
field goal.
field goal. That's kind of where I see it, and this is a good indicator to me of how the NFL rule committee got it right, because I feel like there is an argument for both sides, because obviously the Chiefs look smart. They said that they would have gone on offense first regardless. Defense first, excuse me,
Yeah.
because they wanted to play 4-down football, which makes sense. You can play a little bit looser knowing, hey, we have 4 downs no matter what. We're going for it regardless. However, there is the possibility for a third drive. And if I don't have a play that I'm 100% confident in, and Brock Purdy had a good game, he didn't have a great game. If I'm not 100% confident in him, oh crap, we don't get it on fourth down. Now Patrick Mahomes just needs 30 yards to go win the Super Bowl. I know Dre Greenlaw went out and Oren Burks did not play very well in his coming in for Dre Greenlaw. But at the same time, you got to have some faith in your defense at that point. And I feel like that point of view is correct, and I had never thought of it before. But at the same time, I feel like we're going a way too far in on Shanahan. But also, there's some bias there. I'm a Shanahan believer, but
Same.
it just like you're gonna give Patrick Mahomes a chance to just get 30 yards and a field goal when Harrison Butker was nailing them. He had an argument for Super Bowl MVP at one point. Like
He hit the record twice.
once.
Is that what
Moody hit it the first
Moody
time.
had a good
Okay,
game other
Moody
than
hit
that
it.
block
Okay,
extra point.
that's
They
right.
both had actually really good games for kicking because
which is-
all the field goals were pretty far away.
Which is surprising because Moody had a very up and down year. So
Yeah.
I mean, I like that he did well.
The part I really didn't get about not the overtime rules, more, I don't know if it was on Shanahan or it was on the players, but a lot of the players came out and said, I didn't understand these new playoff rules and overtime. And I was kind of wondering, like,
I just
how?
don't buy into that.
Why?
I don't know. I just
I do.
Yushak walked it back too. He came back after it and said like I was misinterpreted on what I said, but like he knew what the rule was, but I don't think they knew the repercussions of the like taking the ball versus not having.
Now I don't think it matters because you want to go down and score a touchdown either way, and you want to stop them from scoring any points either way, either team. But
I also think that the reason why the 49ers didn't go for it too is I think they were nervous because they had Kittle who's banged up and Debo banged up. I mean, it sucks because I would have had complete faith in Ayuk because Ayuk, every time he caught the ball,
3 catches, dude.
and like every time they were pretty good coverage too, and he made the play that he needed to do. And then Juwan Jennings, I know people could argue what he was doing, but Juwan Jennings definitely has so much confidence that game where he would have done something.
do you guys think he would have won Super Bowl MVP if?
No,
Niners won?
McCaffrey would have.
Oh no, yeah, no, McCaffrey. They showed McCaffrey stats. This was good. The only way
he
I would
was
say
like-
that
He had
would've-
80 rushing and receiving.
Yeah.
in
The
that
only way I
time.
would have said Juwan was is if that play where it was like Christian was didn't get blocked, he was scoring there.
Yeah, I think
if he
they
was an
used
accurate
Juszczyk.
passer, he had two, and that would have been.
more than Ayuk.
I think Juszczyk had like 2 catches. So do you guys view the Niners superstars kind of floundering in Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle on Shanahan, or do you blame it on them? Because eventually, all right, you guys are supposed to be guys. Go beat man coverage, and they couldn't beat them. Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed are legit, all pro caliber players. But also, you guys are as well. And that's kind of where I feel like they let Kyle down, and the fact where and Brock, where just one of you make a freaking play. Like Kyle Juszczyk and McCaffrey were playing well. Juwan Jennings was playing well. Those 3, though, were nowhere to be found.
I feel like when you have too many of those superstars on one team, it can cause conflict. And the reason I think the Bengals were so good when they did make it to the Super Bowl against the Rams is
They were
because
selfish.
they had superstars. They didn't have superstar at every single position. Like they had a decent tight end, they had a very good wide receiver 1, and then wide receiver 2 and 3, they were good, but they were not superstars. And then their running back was all right.
I mean, yeah, but I don't even think selfishness, like, I think selfishness is coming into play now with obviously Brandon Ayuk's social media interactions, him and his brother kind of throwing some shade at San Francisco. But in the game, like, I could care less if you're selfish in the game as long as you're producing. None of the 3 of them produced. Couldn't care less. Thanks.
Yeah, the perfect example of that is Travis Kelce on the sideline. Travis Kelce on the sideline yelling at Andy Reid was like, obviously it blew up into this whole thing, like blah blah blah. Travis was toxic,
Elderly
whatever.
abuse,
Like,
assault,
yeah,
but-
but at the same time, it's like that is exactly to your point. It's like Travis Kelce was being selfish in that moment because he knows who he is to the team.
And he had an awful first half, got called out by J.J. Watt at the halftime show.
Did 2 great plays that got them tied up, and then
And he ended
He
up
had
9 for 93.
8 for 92 in just the second half alone.
Yeah, and a touchdown. Well, I don't know if it was in the second half or not, but
he had a touchdown.
I don't
Didn't
think
he?
he got
No, he didn't
he
have
got
a touchdown.
close
You're
in
right,
the
you're right.
overtime.
He got close in
and that.
overtime.
yeah.
He got close.
You're right.
He got sort of close before they kicked the field goal. to
Yeah.
tie.
But that's what I mean. Big time players showed up for the Chiefs. Mahomes showed up. Kelsey showed up. Even the lesser known guys who weren't household names, superstar, all pro guys. Valdez Scaling, all of a sudden he didn't drop. McCole Hardman, game winner. Those guys showed up. The Niners didn't show up.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Shanahan were just willing them on offense, and Nick Bosa's a heck of a guy on defense. The Niners were completely underwhelming in my eyes.
Did you see the Chiefs scored the same, or they did the same exact play as what won them
Oh, yeah.
the game last year?
Corn dog with ketchup.
Is that the name of the play?
Well, the play is corn dog. Their thing, they added ketchup because it was like a wrinkle of the play.
I think the play calling also could have been better with the 49ers. I feel like they didn't try much trickery and were very bread and butter like the whole game, from what I remember.
I would
Except for
argue
that one touchdown.
Yeah, I would push. I think that they pulled out a lot of wrinkles. I mean, starting on the first drive, you have the play action where you have Juszczyk going all the way to the other hash and then breaking off for a flat route. You have the double pass with Jawan Jennings. I think that you pulled out the stops there. If the play calling, what was suspect there to me was you got away from the ground game probably a little
I
bit
guess
too
that's
much.
what I meant more.
Yeah, I was so in that eyes, I actually would have been fine with it being more vanilla. But
Well, and maybe that's part of the issue that Shanahan has in the playoffs and why, like, near the end of it, he always flounders at some point in the second half of some game. That, like, you know, his system works. Like, the stuff that he does, like the bread and butter stuff works. That shows in the season, the entire season. They're one of the best teams in the league throughout the regular season and up in really through the playoffs. And then when you get to the Super Bowl, like, people say, like, you pull out all the stops, you do this, you do that, you do all the plays that you wouldn't normally run. It's like, why would you get away from the bread and butter that works and go
You know
to these
what?
plays that your team has never run, they're not used to?
You know, I think that's is. I think he had like his OCs are good. Like McDaniel, like came out from nowhere. I think he doesn't have someone in his ear being like, "No, you gotta stick to it." I don't think he has the guy that tells him, "No, you gotta stick to it." Or he has a guy that he trusts enough, or just is so stubborn, where he's just like, "No, I'm not doing what you say."
Well, the turnover's nuts. The turnover that they have at coordinator, I mean, we saw it happen this year with the Eagles. That's part of the reason their offensive and defensive coordinator gone, and they struggled this year. Like, I mean, the 49ers haven't had those same struggles, even though they've had way more turnover than basically anybody else in the league at those positions. And part of that is because I think Kyle Shanahan's always done the play calling on offense.
yeah, and I think that kind of just shows the differentiation of Kyle Shanahan and Nick Sirianni, where they're just not on the same level. Where
Not even close.
and this has become a popular theme in the media. I mentioned it in a TikTok. The knock on Kyle Shanahan right now was the knock on Andy Reid for a majority of his career in Philadelphia. Always was getting to the NFC championships, got to a Super Bowl. Those early 2000s Philly teams were just nice. Donovan McNabb, Terrell Owens, Brian Westbrook, but they could never get it done. Look at Terrell Owens. He was playing on one leg, had a MVP type performance, and they still lost because there was a young kid on the other sideline named Tom Brady. And Kyle Shanahan is kind of being under the same issue that Andy Reid was. He's just losing to these legendary teams. He lost to Tom Brady and he lost to Mahomes twice. Like, are we going to really be that hard on him?
He's
And-
definitely getting one soon.
And I think that if the Niners are patient enough, they will. But at what point does Kyle just kind of go, all right, like, is it time to move on?
I've
gonna
been,
ask- I
I've
was
been
gonna
saying
ask if you
that.
thought
I've
he
been
needed to
saying
change the
that.
scenery.
Like that he might be leaving or that they might fire him.
But
Like what the Eagles did with Andy Reid. I've been saying that. Like he might be gone soon.
Andy Reid also bottomed out hardcore. The Niners are far away from bottoming out. Andy Reid was fired after a season that he split time between a rookie Nick Foles and an aging Mike Vick. So
But Nick Foles also had a game where he threw 7 touchdown passes. I think
with Chip Kelly.
Was that Chip Kelly?
With Chip
Okay.
Kelly.
All right, I was
that was
missing
when
a year
Chip Kelly
earlier.
was a respected NFL coach and not a college offensive coordinator. But
I don't know if he was respected. Not by
At
his
that point-
have you heard LaShawn McCoy talk about him? He was not respected by his players. His
all right,
players had zero
a
respect.
winning head coach will say
Okay,
that.
there we go.
Well,
All right,
a
that's
winning
fair.
one, but
Look at Belichick. He was let go by the Browns, and then
Yep.
He found a great quarterback, just like Andy Reid.
Look at Kyle's father, Mike Shanahan. He coached for the Raiders.
LA. You had LA for the Broncos.
Well, yeah, but before that, he had 2 previous stops, I think, before he landed in Denver with LA. Pete Carroll. He was the head coach of the Jets and the Patriots in the 90s. Awful, terrible head coach in the NFL in the 90s. He goes to USC, comes back a decade later, and he's one of the best NFL head coaches. So, Josie, do you have an update on Mike Shanahan's resume?
His resume is long. I'm trying to look here. He was
The Raiders for sure. I think he had another stop, though.
Broncos head coach, San Fran offensive coordinator,
Raiders were in LA.
Broncos quarterbacks coach, LA Raiders head coach. No other head coaches.
Okay, so the Raiders, and he was pretty bad, I think, and when they were in Los Angeles, obviously coaches Steve Young, comes back and wins Super Bowls back-to-back with John Elway and Terrell Davis. So I'm not saying that that's a move that's going to happen, but it is something to kind of keep in the back of your brain over the next couple of years. Like, hey, is Kyle going to kind of position himself to go somewhere else?
Yeah. Be crazy.
Yeah.
When Reed retires, he's going to take over the Chiefs job. Do you imagine?
I would.
That would be Kevin Durant going to the Warriors.
Yeah.
Like that'd be insane.
Kyle had a chance to go get Mahomes and didn't because he thought he was going to go get Cousins. And then they traded for Jimmy G instead.
And then wasn't that the year when they had the second pick and they took Nick Bosa?
Solomon Thomas.
No, Solomon Thomas.
Oof.
They traded back to the number
Chicago.
3. Chicago traded up to number 2 for Trubisky. They didn't even look at Mahomes because it was everyone just knew that Cousins was going to go there.
Yeah.
But then they were bad that year, and he got forced to make a move. They trade for Jimmy G.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Things went well at first, 5-0 that year.
What you guys
He
think?
tore his ACL.
So this is just. I didn't see as much till after because the game's obviously over. Did you guys want more flags in the second half? Like, did you guys see a lot?
I think it was called excellently. I feel
I liked it too.
The only thing I saw was there just one on Nick Bosa that like he got taken down where I was like you could tell, which outraged, but I didn't think it was that bad in the second half. I mean, I've been seeing some stuff where people complain. I'm like, it is what it is.
I thought it went both ways, and I think I'd rather see a cleaner Super Bowl without very many flags than
I was just glad there wasn't
Super Bowl.
like a play like last year where like they called the flag where I would just let it play it out.
You're talking about the hold on
Yeah,
Juju.
the hold on Juju.
No, and I was
just waiting
worried
for something like that to happen again.
I was worried Niner fans were going to get loud when Trent McDuffie was called for the hold that extended the drive on 4th down and overtime, just because that's a tough call for a ref to make because that literally has the chance to end the game.
It's
if
like
you don't
last
call
year it is, but it also isn't because like
no, he tackled him. He
no, but I'm just saying like he wasn't gonna unless like he didn't get tripped up or anything.
And that was against Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, Jawan Jennings extending the drive and giving them a chance to win.
Yeah, and that's the thing they talk about. They can't call a play based on what they think is a player's intention. They have to call it based on what actually happened. Yeah. So even if we don't think that Trent McDuffie tried to tackle him, like he did, like that's the reality of the situation is like he did, and so like they have to call it. But
all right, you guys ready for a draft?
let's do it.
All right, let's do a draft.
Omaha.
All right.
All right, we're gonna do something really, really off topic today. Childhood and teenage celebrity crushes.
All right, Luke, I see. I know what you're thinking of over there when we're talking about the Super Bowl. Luke's going through his celebrity crush list.
Cooper, you go first.
I go first?
Yeah.
All right, my first one is going to be a singer. It is going to be Ariana Grande. I don't really like her music, but not really.
I
but
appreciate the honesty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
She's very good looking. And then the next one is going to be an actor. And the first time I saw this, actress, and not actor, not actor.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, though.
Actress.
We're getting a little.
Home's over.
Oh gosh.
Actress. And the first time I saw this actress was in a movie called San Andreas. And
Alexandra Daddario.
As soon as you said that, I was like,
Yes.
it was,
I think
dude.
that's
Yeah.
like the movie where I recognized her too. I was like, all right.
yeah.
Was that the first time you
All
saw
right.
her? Was that the first time you had seen her? Or anything?
It might have
Percy
been.
Jackson.
was the
Jackson.
first
I
time
don't-
I'd seen her.
I don't know, but I also like that movie because The Rock is in it. It was a good movie too.
You sound like such a guy right now. I like that movie, Alexandra Daddario and The Rock.
Those are my two.
Said The Rock is actually his teenage.
Who was the
crush.
mother in that one too, though?
Oh,
Carla Gugino.
Yeah.
She's a good one.
Yeah.
uh-huh. Wasn't she the mom from Spy
Milf.
Kids?
Yeah,
she the mom
she
from
was the
Spy
mom from
Kids?
Spy
Yeah.
Kids.
She's in like
She's in
those
a lot.
Netflix scary stuff.
You and your
like-
mother.
She's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Carla Gugino is a good one. I'm gonna go Scarlett Johansson. And I'm all right.
He said,
You know what?
You sound like our dog when he's like trying.
I'm gonna go the Ryan Reynolds duo. I'm gonna go Scarlett Johansson. I'm gonna go Blake Lively.
That's a good answer.
She hasn't been anything recently, right?
She was
The
just on
Super Bowl.
TV at the
She was in the Super Bowl.
I'm talking about movies or anything.
She was next to Taylor Swift. I mean,
I'm actually.
Spice was so out of place there.
No, a little off topic, but did you see that Ice Spice? Like people are saying that she's what's it called? Satanic,
Satanic.
She was wearing an upside down cross.
Yes, and then
Illuminati signs or something.
yeah, I don't know, but I don't know.
No,
I just thought I'd
I
mention.
thought
That's
that
like
whole
every
suite,
famous
that-
person, dude.
That whole suite, that booth, it looked like they were holding up signs saying like cheer or like laugh or be sad. Like it looked like they didn't.
NPCs.
Yeah.
I don't know. Jason Kelsey was in there, and Jason Kelsey's like the opposite of a.
Oh yeah. I didn't realize he was in that. But, like,
Do you guys see like the Jason Kelsey meeting Ice Spice
Yeah.
memes? Those were
am
amazing.
I the crab or the fart?
All right, Christian.
Peyton List from Disney Channel for sure.
Hey,
Watch
Jesse.
it. Jesse for sure. And who's the girl from Kicking It? The blonde girl,
Olivia Holt.
Olivia Holt. I'm gonna go to Disney Channel days.
You're showing your age.
I'm old.
No, I mean,
No.
I'm saying you're young.
Young.
Mr. Kipling.
I'm saying you're young, dude. My childhood was actually from Spy Kids as well, but
Not Carly Gugino?
Alexa Vega, the daughter.
That's-
Again, we're like the same age, so it's not weird because we were the same age at the time. It's not weird.
How
I
old is
mean,
she
no
now?
one was thinking it was weird.
How
but
old
then
is she
you
now?
said that.
He had
She's
to
my age.
specify.
She's on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's. I mean, if we were the same age then, we're the same age now. That's the way it would work.
Watch it for his next one. It'll be like Hayden Panettiere in Remember the Titans.
It is Hayden Panettiere, but it's Hayden Panettiere in Heroes. So Hayden Panettiere or
Who's that?
Sorry, Megan Fox in Transformers.
So you have
1.
a crush on Hayden?
Hayden Panettiere.
Oh, okay.
She's a little better looking than you are. Sorry.
I always say I like.
Who is that person?
I don't know.
She was
She's
the
pretty
daughter
super blonde.
in Remember the Titans, and she was also in a show called Nashville.
Oh,
Oh, like the
I
don't
coach's
remember.
daughter?
Yeah.
She grew up, dude. Stop.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a little
No,
bit.
dude, stop.
Josie.
You guys are trying to make
Jeez.
You guys are trying to make me catch a
Are you
case
talking
for no
about like
freaking
are you talking about
reason.
like her at the funeral? Or like the
Clip this.
I'm talking. I wasn't saying anything about her in Remember the Titans. He said Remember the Titans. I said she was in Remember the Titans.
I heard it the opposite way.
The person when
I'm not
she was
getting-
I heard you think she's kind of mid now.
I'm not getting defensive. I'm standing on business here and telling you guys that no, I didn't.
All right, my question was: is it the
Wind
actress
it
that
back.
Was it the actress at the funeral, like when she was growing up, or are you talking about like when she was like 8 years old?
I'm talking about her in
I
a different
wonder
show.
Which one he's talking about?
Do you know that the
They both look the
actress?
same.
Hey, do you know that the actress in the beginning of the movie at the funeral is not actually Hayden Panettiere?
Yeah, I know, but I'm
Yeah.
just still wondering. Like, I don't know which one's which though.
Yeah, pull up a picture.
Let's get a good picture. Hold on. Hold
Luke
on,
will
hold
throw
on.
a picture on the video.
She kind of looks like Blake Lively.
A little bit.
She
There you
looks
go.
like Blake Lively, dude.
Oh,
Show the camera just in case Luke forgets.
Just in case somebody forgot what Hayden Panettiere looks like.
really?
I mean, they have
absolutely.
My childhood would be Lindsay Lohan, specifically in Herbie Fully Loaded.
You like the bad girls, huh?
And,
Oh, yeah.
You naughty, naughty boy.
teenage and current is Alexander Daddario.
Oh, hey, sorry. Honorable mention. Brittany Snow, the oldest daughter from The Pacifier, with
Wait.
Vin Diesel.
She's in Pitch Perfect, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. She's a redhead in Pitch Perfect. There it goes.
Well, she's a blonde in the third one.
Is she? Okay,
Yeah.
she's blonde in real life too. So
Okay. Nice.
yeah, nice. Well, that was good. Audible.
This might be Josie's last episode, I think.
Listen, I'll stand on it. I did not.
You know,
Oh,
yeah.
I did not. I'll Bill Clinton. I did not
We'll just have to rewatch it.
No,
do it.
we'll see. But
Instant replay. Have you seen those commercials? Like, let's pull up the instant replay.
throw the flag. Throw the flag. All right.
It's all right. Just clip back right now. Me saying.
I'll make
what
it
I
look
did
like
say.
it's like in your dream, like with the little cloud.
There you go.
Up and think at it.
It is Hayden Panettiere, but it's Hayden Panettiere in Heroes. So
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
Luke's gonna be in his bag editing this video. He's pulling out all the
There you go.
stops.
The knuckle crank.
All the tricks.
all right, we doing this draft.
Yeah, we are. All right. So, how do you guys want to do it? Do you want to do the draft of best players in the Super Bowl or draft of players on the Chiefs being the reason why they won the Super Bowl?
It's just on the Chiefs, or is it just
Or
any player
Chiefs
why
or
the Chiefs
Niners.
I would
won?
say
Which
why
one?
the Chiefs
Yeah.
won the Super Bowl.
Why the Chiefs won?
Why the Chiefs won.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go last as always. Do you guys want to snake it or just go in regular?
Snake it.
Snake it.
Fun, the snake.
All right. Cooper, you want to start off?
Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes' dad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, not again. But I'm gonna go with Spags. I thought he coached a very clean defensive game. I mean, he coached them well. He left Ayuk open on a few plays. Now, I'm not saying it's his fault or whatever, but he left Jarius Sneed on their number one threat on each play consistently. And I thought that was a huge part of the game. He took Kittle out of the game. So did the 49ers coach with Kelsey in the first half, but Kittle he might as well just not even have played. He was barely even there. So I thought he coached an extremely clean game.
I mean, I love me some Spags, but I don't know how you don't go Mahomes number one. I mean, the guy, I think now, it's him and Brady in the GOAT conversation. I think he's already passed Montana.
Is this your pick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had someone else in mind, but I mean, we can't let Mahomes drop to 3.
No.
He led the team in rushing, 66 yards, something that I don't think many people would have realized just watching the game if they didn't go look back at the stat book. That's just insane. I think he's the first quarterback to do that and win the game since Steve Young did it in 94. Patrick Mahomes, we're just witnessing greatness right now.
Between two, I think I'm going to go with Bucker just because he broke the kicking record right after, and he was on point the whole game. Like, he wasn't, like, close to missing any of them other than, like, the one that he did break, but he still had enough leg power for that. And honestly, he's the reason why they stayed in the game before overtime.
For sure.
They would have lost for sure if he at least missed one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I think that my first overall pick to end this round, I don't think we can let Chris Jones slide out of the first round just with how consistently good he is. Like, them in week 1, obviously they lost to the Lions. Like, it was a close game. I think it was a 1-point game, 20-21 or something like that. Like, super close game. But, like, that game just showed how important he is. And, like, we're constantly talking about, like, Aaron Donald and the defensive pressure that he brings from the middle of the line. Like, Chris Jones consistently brings that pressure from the middle of the line. And who does he have on the outside that's bringing pressure? A rookie, George Karlaftis? Like, who else is there bringing that same kind of pressure? Like, their middle linebackers are really good at, like, blitzing and run stopping and things like that. But, like, the consistent pressure that Jones brings in big moments on that 3rd and 4, he was right in Purdy's face. And, like,
Sound like Hayden there.
what's that?
Purdy's
face.
Especially.
Yeah, but I think that, I mean, Chris Jones is going to get paid by somebody, whether it's the Chiefs or somebody else. Like, I don't even know how old he is. Is he 30 yet?
31,
He's
I
31.
think,
Yeah. So, like, he's still going to get paid from somebody on, like, a 4 year deal, maybe. I mean, Von Miller got a 6-year, $120 million contract from the Bills, and he's 34 when he signed it, right? Like, it's just, I mean, he's going to get paid by somebody, and he deserves it. Like, he's that good. So, I guess it's back to me, right? Back round to the second round.
Do you want to just recap everyone's picks?
I said Coach Spags just because of taking Kittle out of the game and holding him to, what was it, 23 points? 22 points? 22 points.
Something like that.
22
Yeah,
points.
22, 25.
I'm going to go Patrick Mahomes Jr., not senior.
Thanks for the clarification.
I did Bucker because he stayed consistent the whole game in that type of atmosphere.
And I went with Chris Jones because he's a dog. So he's got that dog in him.
You got something hanging out of him.
Dude, I literally said that to somebody yesterday. I was like, oh, you see that guy? Yeah, the guy
Oh,
crying.
that was him?
I was like, yeah.
Oh,
said
I
it was
didn't
like
realize
I was
that.
like the guy. I was like that guy crying at the national anthem. Yeah, he had an interesting combine. That's for sure.
I did not
You see the
realize that was
Jason
him.
Kelsey
What do you
clip where
see?
he's like,
Yeah.
I wish I could describe it as hanging.
Yikes. All right, second round. I'm gonna start off little off the wall, little out of pocket. Kadarius Toney. The reason the Chiefs won the Super Bowl is because Kadarius Toney didn't play in the game.
He didn't.
He did his part.
Because he didn't play. Like, let's be honest. If in the end of the game situation, that if Kadarius Toney's playing the game, he's the one making that catch, not Mecole Hardman. And who
Maybe
knows
not
if he
making
makes,
the catch.
I was gonna say, who knows if he catches that ball or not? And I'm being completely serious when I
Argue
say
they
that.
helped them win the Super Bowl last year with that punt return too, and that
Yeah,
catch.
Kadarius Toney has now helped them win 2 Super Bowls, one by not being there. Sorry if that sounds like a
Kadarius Toney,
hater.
the underrated piece of the Chiefs dynasty. He
I
was
told
a
you-
dog last year in the Super Bowl. You're right. He had that punt return. I think he had the
He had the
2-point
touchdown catch
conversion.
where
He had the
they ran
touchdown
the same
catch.
exact play, him and Scott Moore. And
Yep. So again, maybe it's a little out of pocket. I sound like a hater, but like Kadarius Toney's part of the reason that they won the Super Bowl.
I'm gonna go Travis Kelsey here because I mean, even though like he wasn't like crazy the whole game, when they needed him, he did. Like he had those 2 nuts catches at the end where he got them in the field goal range they needed to, and then he almost scored the game-winning touchdown right away. He kept running and going crazy, but at the end of the game, he was there when they needed him, and they used him when he needed to be used.
Hayden, if you say Taylor Swift,
No, I'm
He's gonna say Ice Spice. she did a little spell. She did a little witch's spell from up in the booth.
I'm gonna go the guy who a lot of people still don't realize is a first team All Pro, Trent McDuffie. I mean, the guy was insane. I think he arguably would have an MVP case if his quarterback wasn't Patrick Mahomes. People don't understand how good he is in the slot. He also can play outside, but 2 years into his career, he's on a pretty high trajectory.
He had a rough rookie year too. Like it wasn't great, but then this year he just blew up.
I think top
play
10
that
corner,
last year.
maybe top 5 in the next couple.
Well,
Like,
actually, I kind of wanted the Steelers to draft him last year. I wanted him big time.
yeah, his ability against the run and coverage is just something that we don't typically see. He doesn't have the same stature as Jalen Ramsey, but it's Jalen Ramsey-esque in the fact that as a cornerback, he's able to affect both the run and pass.
I'm sticking with my coach route because I really feel like the 49ers just got out-coached the entire game. So I'm going to go with Andy Reid. This is not the way how he coached, but the way how he handled himself throughout the game, especially when Travis kind of came up to him. He pushed him. He really got into
Even, like,
his
flinched.
face. Yeah, I mean, he was
sat
the
there with a
leader.
straight face
Yeah.
right after that.
He just took it, and I think he took whatever Travis Kelsey said to him, into account, and then he got Travis Kelsey active into the second half.
there's some good memes from that picture too.
But like our prices have never been lower. The Office reference.
What was the other one?
Oh, I don't
There's
remember.
a
There's bunch
million
There's,
of
yeah,
them,
there's
yeah.
so many
There's
of them,
one in
dude.
particular I sent you, and you like showed me this morning. You're like,
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, sorry.
it's not cool.
Dang, Josie, you don't look at Luke's text. You dick.
It was on TikTok.
You don't look at Luke's TikToks.
Yeah.
I'll leave.
You're an
I don't like all of them, but I see all of them.
Is it like he doesn't physically like tap the like?
That's what. Yeah, I don't physically tap the like button. That's what I meant. Sorry if that sounded like I don't like any of them.
recap of round 2.
Let's do it. I started out with
Yeah, I did. Trent McDuffie, and then he chose Andy Reid.
pick.
yes.
We did the
in
round
second
2.
Oh yeah, shoot.
Christian was
I
thinking
forgot
about
snake
his
draft.
picks.
I picked Kadarius Toney.
I just kept thinking about my picks.
I picked Kadarius Toney.
Who did I pick? Oh, I picked Kelsey again because he came up clutch when he needed to. I was thinking of round 3 the whole time.
Trent McDuffie.
I went with Andy Reid.
All right. Round 3, last round. Coop.
Yes. I am going to go with. Now, I have not decided who I'm going to go with yet.
5.
Yeah, we have a time clock.
Okay, all
here.
I'm just going to go Mecole Hardman. Why not? Because he was silent for a lot of the game. and to come up big when it does really matter is huge. He
He
would.
didn't even know that was like. He didn't know right away that they won the game.
Oh yes, yeah, I
in
did
shock.
see that. I mean, he stayed locked in the entire game, but he didn't do much before.
I don't think they really used him since they traded for him. I was kind of mad.
Didn't even
I think he
start
would've
the
been-
season.
I think he would have been. I think he would have been good if they kept using him.
Because when did he get traded to the Chiefs or
Like at trade deadline.
Yeah.
at trade deadline?
And he played
Like,
that game and he got targeted like once and it was overthrown deep ball. But like I don't think they used him because he's not obviously the greatest receiver, but he was good. Him and Mahomes had a good connection all his years. So I mean,
He's a solid
I
wide
would
receiver
like.
three.
I'm kind of mad they didn't use him more because they probably would have been better with him.
If they used him like teams use Curtis Samuel, I think he would be a lot better. I don't think teams use him as a utility gadget guy as much as they could. They did a little bit with the first time he was there on his rookie contract when they would use him on like end arounds or little touch passes and stuff. Like they didn't really use his speed because they had Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna go the 49ers injuries. We were just getting on them, the skill positions, IU, Kittle, and Debo, and rightfully so. I don't want to make excuses for him, but Debo had a hamstring injury that probably would have kept him out had it been a game of less stature or any game not the Super Bowl. Kittle also had an injury in overtime. He actually went to the locker room and made it back for that drive. Missed a play that resulted in a holding call by another tight end.
Honestly, they might have scored there.
Yeah, we have that new
That was
TikTok.
that was like a 5-yard line when that run was a really good run.
That's an NFL what if moment.
Yeah.
But the injuries there, and then I mentioned it earlier, the Drake Greenlaw injury cannot be understated. Like
He was playing crazy though. He was everywhere.
it's on fire, playing like a madman. Orrin Burks comes in and is a complete liability. I think Patrick Mahomes was 9 for 9 when targeting him for around 90 yards and 2 touchdowns.
That's also such a big task just to come in as a backup and replace a guy like Greenlaw. I mean,
And you also don't know if it was just like a mess up, like where he was right there for, and then like the team wasn't there. Because there's a lot of plays where like they had the tackle and the team was just not around to like commit and help out, and fly to the ball.
But in a 4-3, obviously you're not in base too much in today's NFL. You're going to go to sub packages like a nickel or a dime defense.
They couldn't though. They had to do
Well, that's what I mean. But Orrin Burks is the third linebacker in that 4-3. So technically in a base defense, he's a starter. I'm not looking for him to play at an all-pro, Pro Bowl level like Fred Warner and Drake Greenlaw are. But give me
It
something.
just feels like they should have a better backup. Like they should have signed someone like
Well, they used to have Al Shahir, butchered the name, but the Titans starting linebacker
Well,
now.
I meant like what like the Eagles pulled with
Shire.
signing Sue and Linval
Yeah.
Joseph before the Super Bowl. I feel like they should have signed.
And Greenlaw used to be that third linebacker back when Quan Alexander was there. It was Quan Alexander and Fred
Shout
Warner.
out Quan Alexander. Him
Yeah.
playing so well.
So the 49ers injuries as a whole, but specifically that.
That's a big what if too.
Did I just say that right?
What?
yeah, he did.
I didn't say it.
I wasn't. I zoned out.
Said specifically, like without being weird. But,
Yeah.
Listen,
You can honestly argue that. I mean, it's sort of a big what if, but you could argue if Greenlaw was in, their defense would have been way better. Like they probably would have won. With
Oh
Greenlaw.
yeah, I don't even think
Their
that's an
defense
argument.
looked great with him, and like Chiefs weren't doing crap.
He was my dark horse Super Bowl
they
MVP.
weren't doing
candidate.
anything
So-
with him in there. Like he was there like every tackle it looked like too. Well, you kind of took mine, so I think I'm gonna go Nick Bolton. I think that if he didn't get hurt this year, he'd probably be a top 10 linebacker, arguably top 5 maybe. But he's everywhere for them. He's honestly like a Drake Greenlaw for them to me. He's there every time they need him to be. He's a great blitzer. He gets off the blocks right away. And then coverage, he's great at coverage too for his size and how big he looks. He's there every time they need him to be. And then he was locked down on Kittle and all them.
Chiefs have some underrated off-ball linebackers and
They had
Willie
great
Gay.
drafts.
Willie Gay, Drew Tranquil, and
You got to think, those were their first picks. They got Bolton and then they got Creed Humphrey right after that.
Willie Gay's a free agent this year. Tranquil, I think, has another year.
Tranquil's
and
a 1 year deal, I'm pretty sure.
okay, so
Big
Tranquil.
because the big thing was like Andy Reid, like come with us for a 1 year deal. You're going to be getting a Super Bowl ring.
But Josie, how are you gonna finish it up?
Did anybody take Andy Reid?
Yeah,
I did.
Yes.
Okay, I was looking at his name on there. I'm like, I know somebody took him, but since that's the case, I'm gonna go with Justin Reed. So a different Reed, but I think he's been so consistent on their team. Like everybody remembers him from kickoffs and doing kicks when Harrison Butker got hurt and stuff. And that's great. He's a great kicker. You see the distance he gets on that ball. He's consistent with it. But I think that same thing can be said about him as a safety. Like he's just so consistent.
People were mad.
He would be the Blacks kicker in an NFL white versus NFL black team.
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah,
that was Mendenhall, right?
Yeah.
Well, Mendenhall sparked the whole thing. But
somebody simulated it in Madden.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
Hey, we got Cooper DeJean coming in. We got another white corner, and he's nice with it.
One white corner.
Hey, we got Riley Moss too. We have
Troy Apke as well. I think he played corner for a while.
Yeah, I don't even think he's on a practice squad
He was
anymore.
a 46 overall in Madden.
XFL now or whatever.
Is he? Okay.
I'm pretty sure. But,
Ran a crazy 40 time.
You could argue that Reed,
As Coach Prime said, that brother can run.
Over Tyrann Matthew. They lucked out with that too.
But Reed is just, he's big, he's strong, and he's fast. And he just consistently where he needs to be.
He could play corner.
He's a great tackler. I think he might be one of the most underrated players on that entire defense. Justin Reed is consistent. He's good. Great tackler. What else could you want? So,
sorry, I only heard half of your analysis. Me and Cooper and Luke were talking about white brothers who could run, but white chocolate.
Oh. No.
Jordy Nelson's nickname. Fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were called.
Didn't Adam Thielen have some sort of nickname?
That's a good question. I feel I wouldn't be surprised. He's the stereotypical.
Adam Thielen's nickname.
He had a nickname. I don't know if it was in college.
Could be the most racist
cool
thing
NFL
ever.
Story of how he got there.
Oh,
I
amazing.
can totally see this being the most racist thing ever. How he looks.
We got
White
anything?
Claw.
That's what
White Claw. Ooh, that's
Actually, a good
cool.
one.
Yeah. We're going to recap round 3.
Sure. I said Hardman because he stayed locked in the entire game.
49ers defense injuries.
I said Bolden because he's arguably a top 10 linebacker.
And I said Justin Reed.
Awesome.
I almost said Eric Reed. I do that all the time. Hayden can confirm.
Eric
I always
Reed was
say
a
Eric Reed,
great safety for a while.
I always say Eric Reed
fell
instead of
off.
Justin.
What did I say?
Great. You sound like the tiger. Yeah, it sounds like the tiger from freaking, what's his name?
Tony the Tiger.
Tony the tiger. Yeah.
All right. So Super Bowl's over, but the NFL season's not over. NFL's year round. It's been like that. It's the number one show in America. We're in the off season, and it's still going to be dominating ratings with the draft, the combine, free agency.
I'm excited for free agency.
Me too. Well, we got some news. T. Higgins expected to receive the franchise tag. I have a whole list of guys. Josie has it pulled up, but before we start talking about some potential franchise tag candidates, Josie, you wanted to go into the history of the franchise tag.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at it today because I am not a fan of the franchise tag personally, as a lot of players are not as well. But I'll get into that in a minute. But the NFL franchise tag was first introduced in 1993 as part of the collective bargaining agreement in 1993. I think it was the fourth ever collective
Which
bargaining
started
agreement.
free agency. Before that, free agency was weird, kind of non-existent.
Yeah. There was a strike centered around players' protests of something called Plan B, which is a limited free agency. And basically, it led to the creation of. That's what it's called. That's what it's called. I tried to gloss over it, but
All right, so Josie's a. He's talking about Plan B.
Jeez.
we can bleep that out.
2 back-to-back
Anyway.
weeks. Gosh.
Okay, you're not much better over here.
Anyway,
He did it today. Now it's all 3 of us.
Josie, you got to do it now.
the
give it
strike
context
ended
with it.
with the creation of the salary cap and franchise tags. That's when it was created in 1993. It was initially dubbed the Elway rule because it came about because the Broncos owner Pat Bowlen wanted to keep John Elway for an additional year to figure out the salary cap thing and whatever else it was, because he wanted to retain John Elway. So it started out as a John Elway thing. Imagine that, the league doing something to cater to Elway.
Well, the Broncos actually got in a lot of trouble with John Elway's contract because there were all kinds of cap violations there for a while that they ended up getting in trouble later. The fact.
Yeah. The franchise tag was originally designed to be used primarily on quarterbacks when there was a mutual interest on extending them, but you needed an additional year to make that happen. However, 30 years since its inception, it's taken on a mind of its own, expanding to positions up and down the roster on both sides of the ball. It says that mutually beneficial relationship isn't held up either, at least in the eyes of many players. Once referred to as the prison tag, many players and agents claim the provisions unfairly limit athletes' ability to negotiate and control the narrative of their free agency, which is the reason that I personally don't like it. I think it's intended to be used as a way to extend that player. I think now a lot of teams use it as a way to hold a player hostage for an additional year where they don't have to pay them the money that they deserve.
This feels like a teacher giving the rules to like the PSSAs before the test is even out. Like
I like the franchise tag, and that's a super unpopular opinion, but that's because I don't want my favorite league to turn into the NBA, where we have teams like the Warriors with Kevin Durant. And to a degree, we have had teams like that. The Rams were a super team. The Bucks were a super team when they won it. But not to the level of having... It wasn't equivalent to having a team coached by Steve Kerr that had Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, like...
But
all
they
at one
drafted
time.
those guys. That's the thing about the NBA is you can give supermax contracts to the guys that you draft, and it doesn't hit your cap as much. So like, because they drafted so many players, they were able to do that and bring in one of the greatest players in the league, Kevin Durant.
And we had the same two teams in the championship for close to a decade.
Years,
So, but that's a super unpopular opinion. With that, you have all the players up real quick. I put basically... There's a ton of guys who are candidates for the tag this year. Josie, do you want to just run through one by one and we can quickly give our thoughts?
Sure. Saquon Barkley.
I think he's going to get it again, and I think it's going to be ugly.
Do you think it's going to be Le'Veon Bell? Because if you remember, that's kind of what happened, except there was no holdout. Like, not a real holdout. Like,
he's willing to, but I think that he will get traded for sure if he does.
Le'Veon was 4 games. He missed 4 games, right? Before he came back? When he held out that first year,
I think he came back for the regular season.
No, he came back. He came back for the regular season.
he
They gave him like a 1 year, $11 million deal, and we're just like...
The first year of the tag, he didn't hold out into the regular season. He was back in time. But
if he holds out, though, which definitely is going to happen, and he's willing to do it, I think he definitely gets traded. Because I think even though Jonathan Taylor didn't get traded, I think there's a higher market for him because I think people think he could be like Christian McCaffrey for them.
And I think it's partially his fault. When he renegotiated his contract, not only did he get less money than what Josh Jacobs did when he renegotiated the franchise tag, but also that's your opportunity to say, hey, I'll suck it up and play under this tag, but no tag next year. Like, you could have put that in the contract. He didn't make that much more money either. Josh Jacobs made more than him. Saquon's going to get the tag, and his options are limited.
Yeah. I don't see a scenario where he's with the Giants next year. Like, I think it either ends in a holdout, or I just don't see them extending him because of the money that they gave to Daniel Jones. It's like they're stuck with that contract now. They can't really do anything about
Players
it.
are going to be happy because they all want Barkley.
Yeah, I think
you have an unhappy roster now.
It's the captain.
There were reports that came out that like the players were upset that Daniel Jones got money and that Saquon didn't. Like, it just, I mean, you've got a locker room that's like about to blow up
already, and then you have Brian Dable, who's already
a young coach. Like,
it didn't look like the greatest human being.
Christian's
gonna
least
blow up,
favorite
dude.
coach in the league.
Yeah, I do
Just
not
coach.
envy-
Don't be going F you, F this. Like, go coach now.
I don't envy Giants fans for years to come in the next like 2-3 years. So let's put it that way.
Should have just kept Tom Coughlin.
The last good year they had was like Ben McAdoo's first year.
That boat pitcher.
Yeah, that was
Sterling
that year.
Shepard, Victor Cruz, OBJ.
And wasn't that the year they lost to the Packers, and the Packers got that Hail Mary with Randall Cobb? Yeah, that was their last good year.
And then OBJ punched a hole in Lambeau Field's locker room.
Yeah,
Good times.
Nice soccer player.
Yes.
Could have been.
Yeah.
He said he had to choose when he was 16 if he wanted to play soccer or football, and he chose football. So
I wish
yeah, he's fine. Yeah, actually, you make
fine.
a ton of money in soccer.
Yeah.
Should have done that.
I mean, if you play in Europe, I don't know if he was good enough to play in Europe. But.
All right, give us some other names.
Chris Jones. We kind of already talked about him a little bit at the beginning, and then also in the.
I think it's
section
more
on-
likely L'Jarius Sneed. I kind of maintain the same stance I said earlier. Both of them, if they're gonna cash in
And I
way
think-
more than what they should. They're
I
going to
think
be
Chris Jones
overpaid.
is fine with staying in Kansas City, but also I feel like he wouldn't be opposed to a new scenery, especially like the Texans offer him. You could also just be like, well, you got CJ Stroud, you got that young team, you got D'Amico Ryans, who's young. Like,
What if the Raiders, Broncos, or Chargers just throw the bag at him? I like I said, you want to break apart a Super Bowl team. I could see Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton, and Antonio Pierce saying, "Hey,
I really do see Chris Jones just leaving for the money now because he has his rings and he's proved that
He's
he's a
three
great
Lombardi.
guy. Yeah, I can see him leaving.
I really don't.
Especially if
think
it's a
he's
team
gonna
who's
do it
up
either.
and coming, like I could totally, like it's like what Vince Wilfork did with the Patriots. He left for the Texans, who were young and up and coming.
I also think it's an age thing. Just
I think if Chris Jones is on the Chiefs next year, it's not going to be a franchise tag. They'd have to renegotiate some money. There's already talks about Patrick Mahomes
Mahomes needs a
renegotiating his
raise.
stuff. Like I understand, but there's talk. Like I saw a report that said like he's willing to renegotiate in order to like take a Tom Brady contract to keep some of the guys they have. I think the first name on that list is Chris Jones. It has to be. Like I think that Mahomes understands how good Chris Jones is, and he wants him to stay because if they actually want to challenge that 6-7 Super Bowl record, like you need Chris Jones there at least for the next 3-4 years.
Yeah.
So, and you need to win 2 more Super Bowls in those 4 years. So,
yeah."
but next one on the list, this is the other Josh Allen.
Jaguars.
Jaguars edge rusher, I think this is a clear franchise tag. Travon Walker really came into his own. He's always been good against the run, as we figured he would be when he was drafted number 1 overall. But his pass rushing stats were low-key good. He finished up with double-digit sacks. But even with Josh Allen and Travon Walker hitting double-digit sacks, one of the worst statistical teams at rushing the passer. I don't think you can afford to let go of one of your best defensive players and one of your best players
doesn't
overall.
make sense. I mean, Daniil Hunter had a great year. To me, it doesn't make sense going for an older guy. Just keep the guy who had a breakout year who's that young.
I think this one might be one of the most clear-cut ones for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Anybody else before we move on? No. We kind of already talked about T. Higgins a little bit, but does anybody have additional thoughts on T. Higgins?
He's getting it, but
He's going to get it.
I don't.
He's
think-
going to get tagged, and they're going to let.
I
Boyd walk.
I think he wants to stay, but also I think that he just wants the money and he's fine with leaving somewhere else.
I wouldn't give him a long-term contract.
Sorry, your voice cracked.
Yeah.
Your voice cracked real hard. I was like,
I wouldn't give him a long-term contract. I don't.
You don't think they ever give? So you think if T gets tagged this year, it'll be to just get an additional year out of him? They're not going to extend him.
I'd keep him for another year and then tag him again and trade him if you really want. I would not commit substantial financial resources to him.
Tag and trade is actually my thoughts on the next guy, Brian Burns. So I think
I think
that's.
they let him hit.
You think they let him in free agency? You think they just let him?
I think
he's good.
They messed up big time with the Chiefs not doing those picks. I think
They could have got 2 first-rounders from the Rams.
I think Brian Burns isn't a bad pass rusher. He's overrated for the hype that he's getting.
Not 2 first-rounders and more
No,
good.
he's not worth it at all. Like he hasn't had double-digit sacks yet.
Yeah,
Like
No, he has.
Okay, but like it was barely right.
it was his second year, I think.
I think it was last year
It was
he
like
had it.
barely, but like still, like you're barely getting double-digit sacks. To me, I'm sorry, sacks are huge for me as an edge rusher. Like the only person who I say it doesn't matter for is Micah Parsons and
Myles Garrett.
Max Crosby. Oh yeah, Myles Garrett. But that's just because Max Crosby, he doesn't have a guy yet who's nuts. Like you don't know what Tyree Wilson's gonna do. He's there like every tackle, like Micah Parsons is. Like they're just relentless. Keep going and keep going, keep going.
especially if you're offered 2 first-round picks for any player, you
Yeah.
should
Like-
at least consider
Like
a little.
he hasn't done that yet, and then
they were
get
bad.
offered that. Like do it. Like there's no point in paying. There's no point in paying Brian Burns when you could go out and get Josh Allen instead.
They chose to trade DJ Moore,
Dog.
but not Brian Burns.
Yeah.
Just let that
I
sink in.
think Brian Burns on this list to me is like, if anybody on this list gets tagged, he's the most likely to hold out. And he's not going to, I don't think he wants to play for the Panthers. And part of the reason I believe that is because he got ejected, I think in 2 games this year. He got, like the frustration from how his career has started with the Panthers and the team that he's been on, I think is part of the reason that he has so much
and then he could
frustration.
have had a ring already with the Chiefs.
Like
He- athletic freak, long arms,
like-
super explosive and fast. We haven't seen the best of him,
No,
but
absolutely not.
he's like what
I'm not.
He's
I don't want to be the
holdout.
team to give him a huge contract.
Can you
if he-
imagine if the Chiefs had him though?
Him and Karloftis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then they have Chris Jones in there helping their stats out.
Yeah, for sure. I if he gets tagged, he's a holdout in my opinion. I don't think he plays a game for the Panthers. He doesn't want a long-term extension from them, and I don't think he's going to want to get tagged. So he's either going to be free agency or he's either going to.
I think that they're letting him go because also I could just see teams being like, he doesn't want to play for you. We're not offering you jack crap for him.
I mean, that's fair, but yeah, interesting one because this is I think the first person on this list that was an All-Pro, Justin Madubuike.
The only reason if I see him not getting franchise tag, I don't know. I think he will get it, but also I can see the Ravens signing him too. I see him being one of the guys that they're willing to pay because I don't think they want him to walk. I think the only way he really does walk is if he really wants to go to Seattle too.
Baltimore likes the tag. I think they'll use it.
Yeah, I don't see him getting a long-term contract. They're notorious in Baltimore for letting their guys walk even if they're really good. I mean, they had Zadarius Smith. They had Matt Judon. They had
Mosley.
CJ Mosley. Did Haloti Ngata ever get an extension?
No, he wouldn't.
He got one.
He got one. Okay,
Yeah,
he got one, but after
but he was a guy who was all pro. Like he and again, Madubuike was too. But I think that the Ravens have a tendency to let their guys walk and trust the draft process. But I think that right now their outside linebacker rotation is not great.
Their best one was Kyle Van Noy, and second best was probably.
And then you only have Michael Pierce, who's your other decent guy, who's like almost 400 pounds.
And who knows what David Ojabo is because he can't stay on the field. And don't they have another young guy,
Tyus or something like that?
Tyus Bowser's there.
Tyus Jones, just like their interior guy.
They drafted
from Penn State, Adafe Owe.
Oh yeah,
which he had a good rookie season, but he hasn't really done anything since.
Was he Penn State?
Yeah.
So
shout out Eli, miss you, bub.
Because they could have had a really good draft.
R.I.P.
They could have had a good draft.
Gone but not forgotten.
And Adafe late rounds. And you're like, dude, that could have been something.
All right, let's go a little quicker.
Christian Wilkins.
Tag.
I'd tag him too.
And I don't
Probably
think he plays if he gets tagged too. I see him doing the Brian Burns thing.
Antoine Winfield. Extension.
I don't think so.
No tag extension. You have to extend him.
You can't tag
What
him.
if you can't get it done though? I mean, that's the thing. The safety tag is so much lower compared to these other positions.
Yeah.
Where if Winfield gets it, I'm pissed because that's going to be way below market value. It's not like you're an edge rusher or a quarterback getting tagged.
My question here is, you know how Lamar got like that, basically like what RFA is for like the NHL, which is restricted free agent, where if they offer it, do you think they could do that for him?
That's a rare thing.
I just feel like if you have a chance to do it, why don't
you just also lose your chance for comp picks too. I feel like for quarterbacks, it's going to either for non-quarterbacks, it's going to either be the exclusive franchise tag or a transition.
Well, what could
tag.
they get for Winfield though? Now I'm just wondering because if they could get,
I don't know, the safety market's
He was
weird.
the first or second team All Pro this year.
I just don't get because if they do that and they could get a first rounder of it, I would totally do that.
You could get
The
more than a
safety
first
market's
rounder,
just so weird though. Like look at Jamal Adams. He's the biggest safety trade we've ever seen, and that's been awful.
What did they get for him?
2 firsts.
2 firsts and like a third.
Yeah,
And the
it was
Steelers got Minka for 1 first.
Yeah.
And the Steelers fans were complaining about it at the time.
I was complaining because he didn't do much in his rookie year, and I thought we could get him for a second round. But
next one on the list, Jalen Johnson.
he's getting paid.
I think he'll hit.
There was too much rumbling at the trade deadline for him to be on their roster next year, in my opinion.
And if he is tagged, I think that's a for sure tag and trade. I don't think he's a Bear next
From
year.
what I understand, the report was that the Steelers and the Bears were like minutes away from finalizing something to get Jalen Johnson.
I think we were close. I think the Broncos and the Niners also had offers on the table for it. So
like Jalen, there is going to be a market for Jalen Johnson, and Jalen Johnson's going to get
I want him
some kind of bag.
Could we see the Steelers getting two of the Bears' best players?
We'll get there. That's
it is okay. I was curious.
There's something about the Steelers on here.
Okay.
So there has to be. We're a Steelers podcast.
Yeah.
So L'Jarius Sneed, we kind of already talked about him a little bit.
yeah, same thing with Chris Jones. We don't need to.
Michael Pittman, that's an interesting one.
I think he gets paid.
I think he's just going to get paid as well.
I think the Colts want him as their number one, and they like him, and I think they're going to keep him.
I think they should.
I do too. I agree with Luke completely. I'm not convinced that they will. Because there's something missing there. Like the production is insane, but there's something other wide receivers have that he doesn't. And that's not totally fair to him because the dude had 99 catches and didn't even finish the year this season. but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some shenanigans going on where he ends up on just a tag or with a trade for somewhere else.
Or if he doesn't, good for him, because then he'll get used to where a team wants him and wants to pay him.
So my point is kind of along the same lines as Hayden is like, so if you can go out and you can pay a Brandon Ayuk a similar amount to what you're going to have to pay Michael Pittman, why wouldn't you? Like, I think that there are guys that you could pay similarly to what you're going to have to pay Pittman that are better than Pittman is. Brandon Ayuk being one of them. If Brandon Ayuk's in free agency and you can pay him over paying Pittman, I think you have to. Like,
Depends on what type of
Also,
receiver you want.
Pittman's had
production's there
better
for
production, but Ayuk has the higher upside. So it depends on
more
what you're.
targets.
Yeah.
Part of me just feels like you got to keep Pittman because you don't know if you're going to get a good guy. You have Josh Downs, who had a great rookie year for being a third-round pick, which he probably should have gone higher. But, I mean, Alec Pierce hasn't really done anything. He had a decent rookie year, and then he hasn't done anything this year, too. So you just got to keep those guys for AR, who's coming back.
Yeah. All right. A couple long shots on here. I'll name all three, and then we can just give thoughts if we have them. Tyron Smith, obviously left tackle for the Cowboys. Mike Evans. Everybody knows who Mike Evans is, and Danielle Hunter.
I could see Tyron getting it. Mike Evans, definitely not. And then
I
Hunter-
think Smith is just either going to get paid or
So I made this list and I was going through all the free agents. Tyron Smith was so interesting because people forget he was the best tackle in the league for probably a decade. He was better than Joe Thomas at his prime. And that's ridiculous to think about. The guy's an athletic freak. Like
he's still good.
he looks like a power forward playing offensive line. And
You know about his brace?
yeah.
His brace is a knee brace because none of the arm braces
it really?
fit him. It's an ACL knee brace.
Wow.
That's how massive this guy is.
But at the same, he is older, so I don't know if that's a tag situation because he isn't. He's still top 10, borderline top 5, but he isn't in the same stratosphere as a Trent Williams anymore.
Well,
I don't know.
If he does get tagged, I see him playing on the tag. I don't see him because I haven't really heard much news from him being like, "Yeah, I want like to be the highest paid tackle" or something like that, like what Armstead did with the Saints.
Yeah.
Mike
And
Evans, what are you?
He's leaving.
he'll be gone. I mean, they already tagged Chris Godwin once, and then they signed him to an extension after that. Like, I just don't think that in the current situation that they're there, that Mike Evans necessarily wants to continue his career there. He's going to get 1,000 yards wherever he goes. But like,
He got his ring. He's fine going somewhere else. And also, you got to think like, would you rather have Winfield or an aging receiver? We want to keep the young.
Oh no, I think
he's got years left in him though. He's got at
I
least
think
3 more
Winfield
years
would
in
get
him.
the
I
tag
agree.
before
I
him.
would rather move on than go to the draft this year if you want to with the receiver.
There's just limited spots where I would leave knowing that I have a secure legacy in Tampa, unless I was being completely grossly underpaid. Unless the Chiefs are calling my phone, I'm not sure. Chiefs, maybe Buffalo. Like, if I'm leaving Tampa Bay, a place where I'm one of their greatest players of all time, I'm going to go play with a Hall of Fame quarterback and a chance to win another ring.
Well, you also got
I just can't see him on another team.
2014.
It will look weird, but I see him leaving because the Bucks are definitely gonna want to keep Baker, and they have to keep Winfield. Like they have no money.
Sure, I didn't even
Before
put
that.
Baker on this list.
Did Vincent Jackson go Chargers and then Bucks, or Bucks then Chargers?
Chargers and Bucks.
Okay. So I was gonna make a comparison that like he left later in his career, but it's not. It's backwards. Basically,
You
from
mentioned
what it
the
was.
Chris Godwin contract, and that's interesting because forget if it was an ACL or an Achilles, but he was hurt when he signed that contract. Otherwise, he might have held out longer with
he
the
got
tag. He
tagged
might have
first,
played
yeah.
underneath it. But when you're coming off of a severe injury, whether it was Achilles or knee, I forget,
Yeah.
you're going to take the guaranteed dollars that you can get. Kind of like Tony Pollard last season with Dallas.
Yeah. And then I think Danielle Hunter hits free agency. Like, you have the highest paid tight end in the history of the NFL. You have to extend Justin Jefferson. You're probably not going to keep Kirk. Like, where's the money? You can't, if you're going to have the highest paid wide receiver in the league, maybe in history, you already have the highest paid tight end. Like, you can't keep Danielle
You're
Hunter.
gonna have to pay.
As
They've
good
been
as he
trying
is,
to
you
get
can't.
rid of him the
then-
last couple of years.
And then your left tackle too is up and coming rising star who could be one of the best tackles like next year, and you have to pay him.
You have Darius Slay and Brian O'Neill.
And they let Everson Griffin walk for basically nothing, who at the time was an all-pro, Pro Bowl type guy. Like, Everson Griffin was incredible when he was with them. So I see Danielle Hunter hitting free agency. Probably one of the biggest names in free agency based on the year he had this year. So
Yeah.
he's going to get a bag. Like, I mean, you mentioned it to me as like Chase Young's going to
Play
trick
himself
somebody.
into-
Yeah. He's
because
gonna trick somebody
Chase
to get
Young
20
was
million a year.
amazing on
First sack of
Sunday
the
night.
game.
Yeah.
Was that his first sack as a Niner?
No, he had a handful, but he's been awful. Like, but yeah, and I still hold by that. I think he'll get a contract.
They were doing great. The first, like, then Greenlaw got out, and then it was just
Yeah.
they had everything going for them. Like, it looked like I was right where it was going to be like, oh, sure, they're going to get blown out like the Bucks.
All right, you guys ready to transition to the final segment?
Let's do it.
So we're all Steeler fans here. Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo reported during the Super Bowl pregame show that Mason Rudolph was interested in looking elsewhere for a fresh start. Completely fair. That's not really, we don't have to talk too much about that. More importantly, though, that Ryan Tannehill and the Steelers are already being linked together. This makes sense. We've brought it on the podcast multiple times. Ryan Tannehill with Arthur Smith was very good. Adam Schefter the next day, to some people, broke news, but the people who follow the Steelers know it wasn't breaking news. But he said Mike Tomlin is enamored with Justin Fields. This has been tracked back to the draft process.
You mean one, and we didn't know what we wanted.
Mike Tomlin was obsessed with Fields during the draft process. Obviously, he fell quite a bit. He went from the for sure number 2 pick.
For real.
He falls all the way to, I think, number 11 to Chicago. Mac Jones obviously goes a few picks later to Patriots. The Steelers are left with Najee Harris. Justin Fields, it's been linked multiple times. I'm going to start off with my piece. Ryan Tannehill, I'm not totally against it. I know there are a lot of Steeler fans who would just hate it. I wouldn't hate it just because I think it would show that Kenny Pickett, they still believe in him as a guy who could turn into something more than what we have seen. But if we're going to go just for a quarterback, not to necessarily compete with Kenny Pickett, but to supplant Kenny Pickett, give me Justin Fields all day long. And I'm not one of the Fields lovers out there that think Chicago's just completely ruined him. But the guy has 1,000 yards rushing in a season.
Yeah.
He
He
has
started tearing it up.
more arm
Here
talent.
too.
Steelers could use a rushing QB.
Steelers line is much better than the Bears line.
And you don't know what Arthur Smith could do with a
I feel
rushing
like we're
QB
stealing his
yet.
thunder, guys. We're stealing his thunder.
What's
Keep
the
going.
compensation, though? That's my thing. I don't want
third.
to. If it's a third or less, I would give it up.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. If we're trading a second round pick, heck no. And the thing people are forgetting about this is if you're giving up a third round pick or more, probably more. As Steeler fans, we're saying third round pick. Sadly, I think that might be a little optimistic. If you're giving up a second or more, then that's your quarterback. He's not competing with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
He's the guy, which means that we're picking up a 5th-year option for a quarterback who might not be very good.
Yeah.
Which means we're not just married to him this year, we're married to him for the next 2 years. It's something that I think a lot of Steeler fans haven't necessarily looked at. Don't get me wrong. If I have to pick between Ryan Tannehill and Justin Fields, although I don't hate Tannehill, I'm going to go Fields.
Yeah.
But
More unknown. We know what Tannehill is.
it's not as mad and like as people think where it's like, oh, sick, we're gonna have either Fields or Kenny and we're gonna be fine again. We're gonna have a good quarterback. No, we're gonna have 2 quarterbacks who have been kind of underwhelming.
Are still projects.
Yeah, and we're married financially to Fields for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Either when we pick up Kirk.
See,
I wanna dive
I
into
was going to
Kirk
touch
hole
on that,
because
but
I'm a big Kirk guy.
I think Kirk's good, but I don't want to sign Kirk.
We're talking about Fields. We're talking about Fields. We're talking about Tannehill.
I like Kirk. I just don't know if we're on his radar or if he's on ours.
And
Really,
you could argue, Tannehill. I mean, I don't. He's not gonna be that. Like, he's gonna be paid like a good backup quarterback, but he's not gonna be like expensive.
he's going to be a bridge QB.
yeah. Like I think.
And to tell you the truth, I like him. Like, I don't want to give up on Pickett because obviously I like Pickett. I think like the locker room likes him too. I would love to have Fields. Like, I'm not opposed to Fields at all. But Tannehill, I'm not opposed to either because I think that he finally accepted, like, all right, I'm at that age. I've seen a lot more than what Mitch Trubisky saw. Like, I was a starter in Miami. I was a starter at Tennessee, and I got replaced both times. Like, I know what it's like. And I think that he will teach him a lot more than what Trubisky and Mason could have.
Yeah. And I think that there's 2 sides to this, I think, and I'll talk a little bit about Tannehill and Fields. But with the Tannehill thing, like, Tannehill doesn't threaten Kenny's position as the quarterback as much as Fields does. And the reason I say that is because Tannehill will be brought in to be a mentor and to take over if Kenny gets benched. Whereas if you bring in Justin Fields, that's a quarterback competition. Bringing in Tannehill's not a quarterback competition. That's a Kenny, if you don't play well, you're getting replaced by this guy.
And you can
Whereas
trust
like
Cannon
with the
too.
Fields, when you bring them in, they're going to be competing in preseason.
And then
I
it's going
think
to be a
it's needed for
competition
both of them.
shit, but it's going to be a competition shifted towards Fields.
Yeah.
Especially
It's
one
not
that
gonna-
gets
I
hurt
agree
too because Kenny's
completely.
been having injury
Yeah.
issues too. Like,
In the
it's
field,
just,
yeah.
you guys have to stay healthy. You have to be on point the whole season, no matter what.
And the Fields thing that I think plays well to that is we talked about like the Tomlinson image with him. Who was the last quarterback that Tomlin missed out on in the draft that they went and got? Dwayne Haskins, Ohio State guy, a guy that Tomlin loved, that if he would have fallen for him, if they would have taken him. The comparisons are there between the two. Like the Steelers could absolutely go and get Justin Fields. And I think that part of the like their history with that is like even with a team that didn't really make a lot of splash moves like that, they went and got Haskins.
And if I'm Justin Field, that's where I want to go.
Yeah,
I don't want to go
absolutely.
to
You want a
Atlanta.
coach that like really likes you and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not like that Steelers fan. Like, yes, obviously second rounder. I want to draft, but my dream scenario is to just sign a cornerback, draft O-line in the first round, and then if we do go second for Fields, then I would not be mad with that offseason to me.
Yeah, and there's a case that like there were times when the Arthur Smith Atlanta Falcons offense looked pretty good at times, and mostly it was when why am I blanking on his name? The quarterback, Desmond Ritter was being mobile.
Fields
When he was
is
breaking the
way
pocket,
better.
when he was running in for touchdowns. Those were the times that you were looking at the Falcons offense like, maybe they could actually do something. And so like if they can fit a mobile quarterback into Arthur Smith's system,
And Fields
why
is
couldn't
way
that be a
better
good
than
fit?
And
Ritter.
Kenny's kind of like one of those in between guys where you don't know if he's-
Sneaky athletic. I hate to use that phrase, but
No,
he is.
He is. He can run. You can
Yeah.
trust him
His
running
fake
the
slide
Well,
run was nice.
That's an incredibly athletic play.
ball. He can run. Like when I want him, like I'm not scared when he runs. Like I'm fine with him running.
The problem is we just see him when he runs. He's typically rolling, like spinning behind, like back to his left.
Not
and
actually
back.
stepping up in the pocket.
Yeah.
just going full speed.
I
I
do-
think both of the QBs need that competition. Kenny's never had that competition. He was the starter from day one.
Well, he
And-
kind of did with
He was
Rudolph.
QB
Day
three.
1.5.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
really.
He was QB3 going into training camp, but he wasn't. There was never intention of making him QB3.
I do want to go back to Luke's point. I don't want to blow off the Kirk Cousins thing. As a Steelers fan, I'm obsessed. I've read so many things, and don't get me wrong, Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield, if the Steelers are genuinely interested, then get that done. Because as much as I love Kenny Pickett, Kirk Cousins is a very good quarterback, and Baker Mayfield,
honestly, I'd rather Baker
It's a
than Kirk
great-
and Justin Fields.
Baker's too inconsistent.
Baker's arm
Austin
talent
is
compared
locker room,
Dog,
too.
Baker is a franchise quarterback. I will argue that to the Browns.
Baker would
up.
thrive in the Steelers situation. If the Steelers would have known Baker Mayfield would have been available after Ben retired earlier and before all the Deshaun Watson stuff goes down, they would trade for Baker Mayfield instead of going after Mitch Trubisky.
Fans will love him too. He's a perfect
He's a Yinzer kind of guy.
He's a Yinzer kind of guy. He's a great leader to me. He always gets the locker room going, gets them ready. He's always going to be ready, and then he's always going to show that he's ready too.
Yeah, those are all fair points. I just think he's kind of inconsistent. That's my opinion.
His accuracy early in his career was very inconsistent.
But also,
I agree.
I'm going to.
But that's one of his greatest attributes.
But last
though.
year he should have. This year, sorry, he should have won comeback player of the year. He was incredible. The way that he played, and like, yeah, he had
put that
Mike. He
team
had
on
Mike
his back.
Evans, and he had
Injured
Chris Godwin,
and Russell
but
Gage.
and also
So did
low-key-
Brady though his last
Yeah.
year, and he outplayed Brady's
Yeah.
last year.
And like Kate Otten had a low key good year this year, and like he didn't have Leonard Fournette, so like he had
And Dave Canales did a great job.
yeah. So like there are
He put
reasons that
Baker Buccaneers on his
succeeded
back,
this
and
year.
he had that chip on him, and he proved it. Big
But I think the biggest thing about Baker is this time is like every time he saw success in his football career, he was
fumbled
he was the underdog always. He was a walk on. He had to fight and claw his way into the positions that he was in, but he wasn't an underdog with the Browns because he was the first overall pick.
He's getting
he didn't
tagged.
have that. He didn't have that fire that he did normally with the underdog thing, like because he was the first overall pick.
I just talked myself into it. He's getting tagged.
Yeah.
Antoine Winfield's going to be free agent.
That's wild. That's insane. I mean, that's great. Like,
Think
he's
of
gonna
it.
make
There's no
somebody
way.
happy.
to the Steelers.
There's no way Baker's signing an extension. There's no way that they can find a common ground.
yeah.
He,
You think Baker's going to want too much?
in my eyes, not too much. If I'm Baker, I'm betting on myself. I killed it.
Yeah.
But back to so Baker, like I just said, I think he gets tagged, so don't want to go down too far that rabbit hole. Kirk Cousins, I don't think that we're necessarily his cup of tea. We don't give out fully guaranteed contracts, and that's just not going to be his thing. And this is something that Steeler fans need to get used to. The way they run their team, it's very old fashioned. And so we're about to come up on draft season. Draft season's arguably more fun than free agency season. Everybody's going to say, oh, I want this guy in the first round. Oh, this guy's slipping. We should trade up and go get him. If Mike Tomlin didn't go to their pro day, they're not drafting him. That's not necessarily an NFL rule, but Mike Tomlin
Or the Senior Bowl. He had like wide receiver cornerback matchups that
But
they wanted
even
at the Senior Bowl.
Tomlin and Colbert have never drafted somebody. It's obviously Khan now, but same tree.
Sure.
They don't draft somebody unless they went to their pro day. So the year Kenny Pickett was drafted, Tyler Linderbaum, crazy athletic center, would have been amazing. Steelers then go to Iowa's pro day. So yeah, it's a cool pipe dream, but also you can kind of predict where the Steelers are going to go after free agents and draft prospects because they have a template.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not 100%, and there are some rule breakers. I mean, let's say Brock Bowers slips to pick 23, then guess what? The Steelers are going to go to Georgia's pro day anyway, so that's not the best example, but guess what? They're going to draft Brock Bowers just because it's Brock Bowers. So it's
Imagine
not
the two
perfect.
Georgia tight ends on the roster, and then they're tight end 2 and tight end 3. Like,
Well, then I think you
No,
talk about
Fine's
trading
gone.
Muth. Yeah, you're
I know,
And then
unfortunately.
Muth gets screwed out of nothing because they don't use him, right?
Yeah.
I think part of the reason I wanted Kirk is I feel like he's comparable to Roethlisberger in his play style, just kind of like a gunslinger.
He can be at times, I think. I
don't
think
know if I
that you
like
get the
Kyle.
best Kirk, though, when
I like
you have...
Kirk. I just don't want to pay an old man like that.
But he also tore his Achilles too.
Yes, that's one reason too. He's an old man.
I
who
think of
just
Kirk
got-
pre-snap. I don't think of
Yeah.
Roethlisberger pre-snap, really.
Roethlisberger was a backyard, going to make it happen. Like, he'll make one audible at the line of scrimmage, but he's not going to hot route. Like, he's just going to make it work.
And
He's
if it's a
gonna tell
hot
Antonio
route, it's going to
Brown-
go.
Yeah. I was gonna say, he's going to just trust Antonio
He's going to
Brown
tell
get open.
Martavis Bryant or Antonio Brown to just go
he
deep.
trusts his
Or he's
guys.
going to do a fake spike and just,
Yeah.
Oh man.
That was such a great play.
I miss AB.
All right, we ready to wrap up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long one.
That was a sour note.
We could
to end
talk
it.
forever. We
That
could
was
talk
a
forever
good,
about
it was a
that.
really good episode, and then we had to be down on our feels there at the end. But thanks for listening. We have a lot of stuff coming up. Stay up to date on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We have a couple guests who are going to be coming on the show at some point, maybe an Eli reunion. So make sure you're staying up to date and following us on all socials, getting in as much second and short content as possible. But thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.